Hi everyone, welcome to the Lawcast. My name's Melanie Thorley and this is Christy Santana.
How are we all going?
We're at a new
Slightly different section of the office.
Different place in the office. We're trying this out. If you like it, let us know. If you hate it, let us know. Otherwise, this is it.
Here we are.
I'm going to be doing this for a little while.
So what's on the agenda this week?
Look, I wanted to talk about a mad case. And I know we're doing CCCs at the moment, but this is not quite there yet. A little bit like last time.
No, sort of crazy is relevant.
Yeah.
Relative to what we usually see.
But this is about a $150,000 order.
Is this a order for compensation or is this an order of...
Damages, yes, compensation. So what happened is this beauty therapist was working at a male grooming business.
Right?
Yep. So... Yes,
all right. So what's
there's a bit going on there.
Yes.
I was going to say something rather unsavoury, but that's okay.
I know what you were going to say, and I avoided it.
Anywho, okay. So this woman was working there, and she said that she was subjected to sexual harassment by a co-worker, and that a co-worker was allegedly making suggestive comments. Okay, not great. Slapping the employer on her bum,
Right.
requesting sex with the employee while at work.
Even worse again.
Yeah. And then she made a complaint that the employer allegedly told the employee that the co-worker was just joking.
So she's made a complaint to her boss about this colleague.
That's right. So he had been making sexual jokes around her. He had been slapping her bum. He'd been asking for sex, and she made a complaint.
Yep. And
said,
the boss comes back to her and says,
"He's only having a laugh."
He's like that. He's a larrikin.
He's harmless. I don't know exactly. I'm extrapolating here, but you hear all the time. These people who are incredibly rude at the office. He's harmless. I'm like, yeah, but
he does this to everyone.
He does this. It's not you. He does it to everyone.
Which is, if anything, is so much worse.
But you look at it and go, what? Yeah.
So everyone's going through the same thing.
Okay.
It's good to know. So
she eventually resigned after he shoved his face between her breasts.
Wow.
So it got to the point where he probably sexually assaulted her.
Yeah, I'm not a criminal lawyer, but it sounds like that's a crime.
Oh, God almighty. Anyway, so the employee didn't dispute that things were happening, but he denied that he was vicariously liable.
And
he took proper precautions to prevent this sort of thing from happening at work.
So when she was complaining to him, and then more of it happened afterwards, it'd be very difficult to make that argument. I would have thought, especially in a small business.
Yeah.
Where I'm imagining the owner or the boss is aware of it. They've seen it with their own eyes. Then they're also doing nothing once they've seen it.
What precautions do you think the employer did?
I actually think probably nothing.
He did almost that. Close to nothing. Making the employment handbook available.
Oh, that's a slap in the face. That's nothing short of a slap in the face.
So,
as in to her?
Oh, to both. So it says here to prevent the sexual harassment, he made the employee handbook available electronically. So I'm guessing to everyone. Lucky her. Lucky her. So she's been asked for sex while at the office. She's been slapped on the bum. He's been making sexual jokes around her, and he actually assaulted her. And at best, what he said was, "Look, I gave them the handbook."
So, I suppose if we rewind the clock, what should they have done? Making all the assumptions that we've already made.
Well, let's go back. Let's assume that it was a slow progression. Okay, so sexual jokes. Then So the suggestive comments, and then slapping on the bum, then requesting sex, and then actually...
Yeah, so that didn't happen in the space of a day.
Well, I haven't got that information, but let's just assume that it's a slow progression. Okay, suggestive comments. You're gonna have to tell the employee to cut it out.
Yeah.
To stop doing it. At the very least, cut it out. It's not acceptable in the workplace to be making suggestive comments, especially when there is a person complaining, and it's not welcome.
Yeah.
Because remember, we're talking about sexual harassment, which is unwelcome conduct of a sexual nature. So she's made a complaint. It's clearly unwelcome. You're going to have to cut it out. Okay, let's say the worker ignores that and then he starts slapping her on the bum. I think termination.
Yeah.
Don't fire that guy's ass.
I think at that point, anything... I think for the first one, when we think about vicarious liability, we're thinking...
Management,
I think it's enough to terminate. But if you think about vicarious liability...
Yeah, and employment might be hard to come by. You know, this might be a really good worker. You know, we hear this a lot.
So I think, a warning for the first one, fine.
Warning, cut it out. If it starts happening again, we're going to...
Yeah, putting them, make it really... But the second one, I think anything short of termination, you're in trouble.
Slap on the bum? Out.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, the liability for the company is just too high at this point. I don't care how good a worker this is. I actually don't care. $150,000 in damages, and we're talking about the case.
Well, we hear about this all the time when you've got and I'm going to suppose and say that this is a troubled employee, being the perpetrator, but they're probably also a profitable one, or they're very well liked.
That's right.
Or there is a reason they're keeping them around.
Yeah.
And we hear about this all the time.
We do.
That they are just, but they make a lot of sales.
Harmless.
They're harmless.
Harmless.
And actually...
It's harmless jokes. She can't take it.
And the employer is making essentially a commercial weighing up decision about which is going to make more money.
That's right.
This is a great example of why it ends up balancing.
I'm surprised it wasn't more.
In the other way.
Yeah.
Because he has cost that business $150,000 in damages, legal costs which are going to be...
off the Kazan.
Which court are we in here? We're in the...
Well, actually, it's the Victorian Civil and Administrative Tribunal, because remember, these things often start in the Human Rights Commissions. So, for instance, we're here in Queensland, so if we started the matter in the Queensland Human Rights Commission, they end up at the QIRC, being the Queensland Industrial Relations Commission. This is basically the equivalent. They used to be heard, I'm going a little bit technical here, but they used to be heard in QCAT, the Queensland Civil and Administrative Tribunal, but they got moved, all the employment matters got moved to the QIRC. So this is the equivalent to that, I'm going to assume at this point.
So, nevertheless, they're probably spending at least 50.
Oh, it'll be the same, 100 grand.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
It's probably had quite a few witnesses and things like that.
And get a doctor involved about how upset she was. The whole thing's there.
Enough. And so they've cost them another 100 on top of that for legal fees.
Yeah.
And I would imagine they probably need to do some rebranding.
It's terrible.
Because you're right. We're talking about it right now.
Yeah. Termination, dude.
All for the cost of one employee who, you know what, they might have been well liked and they might have made you some more sales, but
wasn't harmless.
Yeah, it wasn't harmless in the end because it was awfully harmful for the company. I assume, and it's probably not the case, but I'm going to assume that he's fired now.
Well, I'm going to assume that. It's really interesting because the tribunal went further and said at no time prior to or after the employee's complaint did the employer implement any educational programs on sexual harassment, monitor workplace, noting it had access to CCTV footage, and or take appropriate steps to communicate its sexual harassment policies to the employees.
So is this just a business that thinks that if you've got some handbooks and some policies, that is just it, that's fine?
I'm going to go out on a limb. I haven't read the case in its entirety, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say this person who runs the business I'm just going to extrapolate here. I think it's a small business. It's a male grooming business. Honestly,
can't imagine it's
how
huge.
big is it going to be?
No.
You might have 5 employees, maybe a bunch of casuals. They've got one guy who who does male grooming, which is probably unusual in this space. It's quite a few male hairdressers, but I don't imagine there's many males out there willing to
do a bit of waxing.
Do the waxing in those waxable places.
Yes.
And so he's probably got someone a little bit unusual there, and he's probably knows him and probably has known him for some time. Could be a mate. And this is,
family.
We have talked about this, about mates staying in businesses, being protected with appalling behaviours, and it just shouldn't be happening.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say that they were probably friends at some point, and he didn't want to talk about it because it's uncomfortable, right?
Well, and probably, and the problem with protecting employees like that is they get a certain level of power, which means they do these things in the first place.
They will never fire me. You can't complain about this because you're the one that's going to be out. And actually, we hear that. We actually hear that in statements and affidavits from our clients from the other side. We see it on tape. It is a pretty standard thing. It's just power play sort of thing going on.
You elevate them to such a level of power that they actually start becoming untouchable.
Yeah, so it says here, in relation to damages, the tribunal held that the employee being subjected to sexual harassment, which culminated in an egregious sexual assault, and accordingly was awarded 150 grand in general damages.
Which, for everyone out there, is a lot of money.
Tax-free, bro.
In general damages. We usually operate off the sort of 10 to 30. So 10 to 30,000 as a... where we're not talking about massive psychiatric injuries or anything like that arising out of that.
But there's no evidence here in the material I'm reading that says there was psychological damage. I think the guy was punishing them. The member was punishing them.
Almost special damages in many ways.
This is a crazy case though. We're going just the progression of sexual harassment is just off the kazam. And the workers complained about sexual innuendos, suggestive comments. Yeah, I can see how that could be a bit of a pain in the ass. Then she gets slapped. No, that's not enough. Asking for sex in the workplace. Still not there.
It's a bit of a it's actually a bit of a textbook of how we're progressive.
Yeah.
Do you know, it's kind of the 3 or 4, 5 bases.
But remember, she left. He wasn't terminated even after.
She was the one who had to get out of there.
She left at that point. This guy is still there. She goes, I've had enough. I can't put up with this anymore. This is the last straw. I'm out. And he just wasn't disciplined. She was sent the handbook.
So what's next on the agenda after that one?
I was thinking about this because one of the things we did a little while ago was myth busting.
Yes.
And for those who watch and listen, Mythbusters was one of our most popular podcasts recently.
Yes.
Everyone loves a decent myth busting. Yep. And we've talked about, we should have put that on our Mythbuster. We should have put that on our Mythbuster.
Yes, we've kind of forgotten a few.
There are an awful lot of myths to be busted out there. And I kind of wanted to go back to this this one where you can't be terminated while sick.
Yes, while you're on sick leave.
I just kind of want to revisit that because I still think people just think it automatically.
Yep.
Use it as the employee uses it as a prevention tool, and the employer just sees it as a bar to proceeding the matter forward. So I thought I might just talk a little bit about in circumstances where it's absolutely okay to continue a matter even though someone is on sick leave, and the sort of things that we need to really think about if you're going to do that, because there are risks involved.
I always see it as one you need to approach it with sort of kid gloves.
Yeah, approach it with caution.
Doesn't need to stop things, but just do it softly.
And also, if you are looking to terminate and someone is on sick leave and you're incredibly risk averse, what's your next step? as well as an employer. So how do we help those employers navigate that particular issue in a way that actually makes sense to them? So I just wanted to sort of talk through a scenario because I thought, let's think about this. So we have an employee. They are unhappy at work. They haven't been performing. They've had a bit of a shout. They're not that grumpy.
Oh, so as in like in the office, they've just had a bit of a lash out.
Yeah, they've lashed out a few times. They're a little bit unhappy, and you've got some complaints. Yeah. So you say to this employee, I'm going to call this employee Jane. Okay. So Jane is, look, whatever's going on with Jane, she's not happy at work. She's come into work. She's obviously looking for a fight. She wants everyone to leave her alone, but she's got a job where everyone has to contact her. Yeah, and she's getting bitchy. Yeah.
Hard to work.
Look, I'm using a female, but this could easily just be a male as well. Yeah. And Jane's throwing a bit of a tanty at people, and everyone's getting a bit on edge, and there's been some complaints by not necessarily the boy, but just the people around her, because they're all a little bit on edge, that walking on eggshell thing. As the employer, you've decided to that it's actually enough's enough. There's been enough chatter. You've spoken to her enough times. Jane is in trouble. Yeah, she's been given notification that her employment might be terminated if she continues just monstering everyone.
Yeah.
It's a work health and safety issue.
Yeah. It's also a financial one. I mean, all your employees.
All your good employees might bugger
leave.
off. Yeah, it's true. So you give Jane a show cause, give her a couple of days off, and you want her to come back to work on Friday to have a discussion about that. Jane is on the ball. She knows her job is toast.
Yes.
Not that we're saying to anybody that you should be making preconceived, but you should be listening to what Jane has to say. But she's thinking her job's toast. So she goes to the doctor. Her doctor reasonably says, look, I can see you're super stressed. That's not in dispute.
No, she probably is.
She probably is, and she takes sick leave. Now, I think in circumstances like that, the show cause notice has been given. She's been given a chance to respond. There is this complication here where she might say, I'm too stressed to respond properly. I'm going to have to wait. And this might be a long-term employee. They've got 3 months and sick leave available to them or something horrible like that. Can we still terminate this employee?
Well, I think there's a few things to. I think the first question, the answer is yes. But there's a few kind of also points that will certainly help employers is to ask more questions around her sickness itself, because a few commissioners have raised this, and I'm a big believer in it. The kind of blanket "you're unfit for work" isn't really good enough in this particular circumstance, because what we need is something from the doctor that says you're not fit to provide a response to the show cause, because you can imagine.
And they want to. That's the other thing. Not everybody responds to show cause notices.
Because as you can imagine, they are vastly different things.
Yeah.
Someone's work, might involve, in Jane's case, meeting someone, 10 times a day and working significant hours. The response is not that at all. So asking more questions around that and getting a little bit more answers.
So
from them.
we're talking, just extrapolating from that, what we're talking about is giving an opportunity to respond. So we're trying to avoid and we've talked about this before, that I call them the axis of evil: discrimination, general protections, and unfair dismissal.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do there is avoid an unfair dismissal matter where the person hasn't been given an adequate chance to respond to the allegations.
Yeah. So that's helping you there.
Yeah.
And obviously being reasonable in many ways, but that might only delay a couple of days tops.
Well, this is the other thing.
Depending on
how long do you give the person to respond, especially when you're paying them to be at work, and now you're paying them to be sick, and if they've got lots of sick leave, they'll feel like they've got an entitlement to continue that. So you're absolutely right. We've got to. So if you're an employer who has a difficult employee, they've lost it, you're giving them a show cause, and then they've gone off sick, it is still possible to terminate that person.
Absolutely.
It is actually okay, and we've talked about this. We already said it is. We're just going into those pitfalls and things.
Well, when we're thinking about general protection as discrimination, we're thinking about making sure we're not terminating because of their exercise of workplace rights, being sick and take personal leave.
Yeah, I would have let it go, but for you now being sick.
Yep. And terminating because of their sort of injury or illness or impairment.
Yeah, something else is going on there.
But the real missing factor there that I think a lot of employers get scared of, or maybe just miss, is the causation one. You are not terminating them because they are sick because they are taking sick leave. You are terminating for this another reason. In this case, they're lashing out, and it just so happens to be at the same time that they are exercising rights or they are.
That's right.
It's entirely different things.
So if you're an employee and you've been given a show cause and someone has said to you, "Oh, just go off sick," it's going to hold it up. That's actually not a magic bullet.
No.
You're not necessarily going to. And quite honestly, if you use someone like us to go through the entire process, it is more likely than not that you'll still end up with a decision, whether that's termination or not. But remember, the decision this is a show cause as to why you shouldn't be terminated. This is not allegations into misconduct and we're investigating, making a decision whether that happened or not. The company's already made a decision to terminate. They're giving you a chance to pull it back.
Yeah.
And if you don't give that company a reason to say, no, this is not a good idea, then I don't think you're helping yourself any. This is just not going to work. So employers need to be careful that they're not falling into this trap of not providing a chance to respond. But the damage has already been done. This is a show cause as to why you shouldn't be terminated. So this is not about holding the matter up, because if you don't respond, they can't make a decision. Decision's already made. It's just that little extra piece if you have some other reason. And it could be a reasonable one. You could just found out you had cancer and you're losing it from an internal perspective and you're just not coping. And that's a good answer.
Yeah.
Or, someone died, or you've got something happening, you're going through a divorce, or you're going through domestic violence. There are lots of reasons why people lash out that you can actually pull it back from.
Or
and just go
it might be at that point in time when you find out a piece of information you didn't know about, that actually Jane lashed out at Greg because Greg 10 minutes before absolutely berated the hell out of Jane, and Greg conveniently left that piece of information out.
Yep, you're absolutely right. There's a lot of reasons. So I think there is a good reason why you shouldn't just as an employee, hide from the answer, thinking your employment is automatically terminated. If you have a decent reason, there shouldn't be anything to hide. But let's talk about the other side of this. The reasonability. If you are an employer who is seriously risk averse, then it's fair to say if this person's got a month's annual leave in front of them, you could just offer them a month's pay and say, how about you resign today? Because if it's not just about the money and it is about the risk, then there's nothing wrong with doing deals with your employees whereby the whole matter gets circumnavigated and you do a deal where everyone just kind of leaves in an amicable way. The person doesn't get terminated, they get to resign. You get to move on from this employee, and really it does appear that no one's really that dedicated to the job at this point.
No, because you wouldn't be going down this path but for...
So I don't see anything wrong with exit negotiations.
No, and it goes to another myth, actually, which is exit negotiations are not a forced resignation.
No, they're not. Not forced resignation. And that's come up a lot recently.
They are not making a predetermined decision.
An offer to resign.
They are not... They're not giving you no choice but to resign. That as in you're doomed.
Doomed.
All they're saying is putting it without prejudice kind of off.
If you want to circumnavigate this process, which we don't know what the outcome's going to be, but if you want to circumnavigate it, we'll give you a chance to resign today, because later we might be terminating you, and that might not be great for you.
And there's many other reasons why you might want to engage in exit negotiations which aren't in the realm of disciplinary action either.
It's true.
And that's completely fine.
That's true. You might have an employee who's just not fitting anymore. It's just not working, or you just want to move forward. Then you can create a situation where both parties make a decision to end the contract. There's nothing wrong with them. I mean, years ago they were quite popular. They've gone a bit out of fashion, and they might be popular again. It's hard to say. It might be like bell bottoms. They come back over and over again.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think it's
bell bottoms?
No. Why do you think exit negotiations have just kind of gone by the by?
Oh, look, I think it's a little bit of there's no money, and no one's got any money to do exit negotiations. People don't feel like, and that goes for the employee as well. It's expensive to litigate, timely, and people know that litigation is great at the beginning. There's lots of motivation, but while you're 6 months in, and all you want is it to be done and dusted.
Yeah.
And I think people are realizing that more and more. And honestly, I think it's an easy way out. And why not? I'm not against that. Great, do it the hard way. I'll make a lot of money. That's brilliant. But do it the easy way too.
It's cheaper and easier.
It's less stress. But I think they have gone out of fashion because of the money thing. And employers have been doing it, and they don't like to be taken advantage of. So now they're pulling it all back and taking a really hard stance.
Well, you can imagine during COVID, a lot of people looked at their expenses, because you would need to account for that.
You would.
I mean, if you're a large enough organisation, you're probably going to lose 2 employees, 3 employees in a 6-month period or something like that. And you need to account for the spent money. And you're looking back at your P&L, and you think that one can probably go, one of the first to go.
What we hear a lot is, I'd rather pay you, Melanie, than pay her a cent. Well, that's lovely. We do get paid. We appreciate that. We love money, just like every other business.
We can do it without it.
But you may also be paying her too, so we've got to do it smart.
Yeah, be smart about it.
Be smart about it. Anyway, I really liked this case on this beauty therapist being sexually harassed at work.
It's pretty egregious.
I don't understand how the employer could have possibly thought what they were doing was enough to get over the line.
Cautionary tale to many organisations out there that they will make it financially just not commercial to allow that type of behaviour to go.
And there's some new cases out about that recently too, about making things commercially unviable to get up to mischief. And yes, if you've got any more questions about our myths being busted, send them our way. We do come across them. But yes, hopefully that myth of being terminated while on sick leave is a little more busted. A little bit more busted.
I hope we, bit by bit, we'll educate the world.
Yes, educate the world. Okay, everyone, thank you for watching and listening to the Lawcast. We will see you again in a couple of weeks.
See ya.
See you later.